Well, one future Hall of Fame quarterback, as we covered earlier today on our Ravens Lunch Hour live stream, who ranked Lamar atop his list of quarterbacks for the 2024-2025 rankings and evaluations among those that have played that position is Big Ben Roethlisberger. And I'm sure some of you still view him as the villain. You can't picture him as anything else, and I understand that. But I think you'll probably also understand that you can get behind his rankings when he took a look at the top 7 for this year at the quarterback position.
This list is tricky because it's this year. It's not who do I think is the best quarterback in the NFL, or it's who do I think played the best this year. Doesn't necessarily mean they had the best stats. Maybe they led their team to victories. Maybe they won a lot of games. Maybe they won with less. Who knows what it is? But this is who I think played, in my opinion, the top 7 quarterbacks in the league this year. Starting from 7 to 1, Justin Herbert. Number 6, Sam Darnold. Number 5, Jared Goff. Number 4, Patrick Mahomes. Number 3, Josh Allen. Number 2, Joe Burrow. And number 1, Lamar Jackson.
Before I react to those rankings, Big Ben wants no part as a Steelers fan of seeing the Ravens this upcoming weekend.
Be going into the postseason the right direction. Okay, so you can pull some comparisons of us. This Steelers team this year, right, going in at the 6th seed. The Pittsburgh Steelers in 2006 went in at the 6th seed too. Okay, the difference in the two teams are people are like, yeah, let's go, we can do it again. The difference is we went in, we snuck in, right? We had to win, I think, our last 3 or 4, maybe. We had to win some games to get in, and we did that. We were trending in the right direction. This Pittsburgh Steelers team, has lost 4 in a row. They're going the wrong direction. Same thing as like Baltimore right now. Like I think that's why I said I didn't want to go play Baltimore. I know there's a lot of fans out there and a lot of people are talking about we're excited to play Baltimore, and I get it. I understand it. I think Chef Evans is excited about Baltimore. We'll ask him. But that team's playing good football right now. Their quarterback is ridiculous. I mean, we know he is, but he's ridiculous. And their defense, which was their Achilles heel, is actually playing pretty good right now.
Yeah.
They're going in trending the right direction. We're going to the postseason trending in the wrong direction.
Generally speaking, I agree with those sentiments. Obviously, Pittsburgh, 6 of the last 8 games that they played in the regular season were in-division opponents, and the 2 that weren't, oh, by the way, were just Philadelphia and Kansas City. And, of course, they limped to the finish line. They are limping into the postseason. They lost their last 4, Philly, Baltimore, Kansas City, and Cincinnati. The Ravens, of course, won their last 4, and both teams had bye weeks at a similar time. Now, actually, check that. Pittsburgh's was back in week 9. What they both did, though, was play 3 games in 11 days, and we know that the Ravens weathered that storm perfectly, and now, they enter the postseason hot as anybody, not named the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, with that, though, I almost feel like you just throw momentum, throw everything that took place over the last month out the window when these two teams meet. I will give the Ravens the advantage, and I know that the Ravens certainly looked good 4 days prior to Christmas when they hosted the Steelers, much better than they did earlier this season. I think it was in mid-November or so when they went to Pittsburgh, and it was self-inflicted wound after self-inflicted wound. But for the most part, you throw out any of those circumstances prior to these two teams meeting up. I do think that the Steelers aren't capable of scoring with the Ravens just due to some of their inefficiencies offensively speaking. They really are lacking a passing game right now, and George Pickens is coming off one of the worst career games he's ever put on tape, and he was doing all kinds of stuff in game last weekend, like jawing at fans in game, dropping the football from Russell Wilson. Like, they got a lot of issues going on right now. But one thing you know for sure is they're going to sell out to make sure they stop Mark Andrews. They're going to keep Lamar Jackson in check. But can they keep both Lamar and Derek in check if used properly? And my gut tells me no. And I think the Ravens find a way to win this game. We'll do predictions and actual scores coming up later this week. But if you don't think that Lamar and Derek are ready to go after listening to this clip right here, I got nothing for you.
No game possibly on Saturday.
It don't matter. I'm ready for any game.
Cold weather games?
I don't care. We got to play. Whether it's cold, raining, hot, I go out there and get the job done.
Run that back once more.
No game possibly on Saturday.
It don't matter. I'm ready for any game.
Cold weather games?
I don't care. We got to play. Whether it's cold, raining, hot, I go out there and get the job done.
Those boys feel like they're ready to go. And to get back to Big Ben's top 7 quarterback rankings from the 2024-25 regular season, Lamar, of course, topped his list. Joe Burrow was 2. Josh Allen was 3. So just keep that in mind. Torrey Smith earlier today, by the way. And you know what? Let's actually throw this up here because Torrey Smith, former Ravens wide receiver, tweeted out the following earlier. And Sarah and I just briefly mentioned it. But just to revisit it here quickly, I felt like this was notable because Torrey obviously was a player himself and a pretty darn good one at that, a multi-time Super Bowl champion winning wide receiver, one of which was captured during his time in Baltimore, the other in Philadelphia. But earlier today, he tweeted out, if the actual players voted for MVP, it would be Lamar by a landslide. But they don't, and the media does. Funny how the people that have to game plan and compete against the players think. Coaches too. That from the beloved Torrey Smith. And maybe he's right. But the reality of this award and the way that it's constructed and decided on is that it is mostly distinguished media members. Some, yes, have a player background. Tom Brady being one of them, I would think, this year. Dan Orlovsky being another who we know is going in favor of Josh Allen after doubling down on comments that he's made over the course of the last month or so. But interesting stuff there from Torrey. And while MVPs absolutely help decide player legacies and whatnot, obviously Super Bowl championships, Super Bowl titles are the be-all, end-all. I'm not saying that MVP is watered down like the Pro Bowl honor appears to be at this point. I remember J.J. Watt just a week or so ago when those announcements came out said something along the lines of, the Pro Bowl rosters are announced prior to the end of the regular season. And he's like, that's all you need to know about that. Point taken. But the reality is for Lamar, he's got bigger fish to fry. But I think the reason why we continue to harp on this is because you want to obviously make sure that the framework of the award, the integrity of the award is kept intact. And I think that's probably why Sarah has been pounding the table all along as well, because again, there is obviously rich history surrounding this award, deservedly so. Speaking of awards, Pro Football Focus has started to divvy them up. And their 2024 Offensive Player of the Year is Lamar Jackson. Over 4,100 passing yards, over 900 rushing yards, 45 total touchdowns, and a turnover-worthy play rate percentage of 1.4. More statistics here from PFF that speak to Lamar's greatness this year. Among quarterbacks this season, he had 37 rushes of 10-plus yards. That ranked first. And guess what? It ranked third among all players. Okay, so the first line there is looking at quarterback rankings. And then he ranks third among all players. What about 27 touchdowns on 10-plus yard throws? That ranked first among quarterbacks. And that was 6 more than anyone else. So, yeah, he was special. He was generational. And I think the word that continues to kind of come up that speaks to his candidacy more than anything else, given his track record, is transformative. I think that's the perfect word for him. Transformative. Thank you guys for being here. Over 700 of you concurrently watching this evening. It's 5:49 Eastern here. Let me know where you guys are watching from tonight. Like the video if you haven't already done so. Subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell so you can be notified of when I'm dropping my daily live content. These simple things go a long way, of course, in helping me build what I'm building for you on a daily basis, as does the support and sponsorship of Preston Automotive Group. And at Preston, Bobby Baltimore subscribers receive 2 exclusive offers, one being $500 to you that can go towards a new or pre-owned vehicle, or when you buy 4 tires, you'll receive 50% off your alignment. You've got over 2,000 vehicles to shop from. Home delivery is available. You'll be joining the Preston team along with Ravens safety Kyle Hamilton, tight end Mark Andrews, myself as a brand ambassador over the last 14 months, and many more throughout the Baltimore area and beyond. Cars cost less with Preston. You can get started today by visiting PrestonMotor.com or just simply scan the QR code that you see in the upper right-hand corner. And how about this, too? I just saw that Mark Andrews stopped by the Preston dealership the other day. And Preston Automotive Group, this is their official Instagram. And here they said, our partner in Baltimore football tight end, Mark Andrews, made one lucky customer's dream come true by signing the truck that they purchased, the very truck he's been driving from Preston Ford of Aberdeen, one of the many locations that they have in the Baltimore area that's at your beck and call. Awesome of 89 to do that. There it is. Mark Andrews signing his truck. Pretty dope. And of course, number 89 has had just a tremendous season. Maybe not in receiving yards for where he typically is, but 11 total touchdowns, broke a single season record for him. And after a slow start, you just got to tip your cap to number 89. And of course, tip your cap to Todd Monken, who has found a way to somehow, some way, put all this together and make it a fine-tuned puzzle. And I think that's probably the reason why over the last 24 hours he's gotten already, and maybe just more is on the way, 2 head coaching vacancy interview requests. One from Chicago, one from Jacksonville. We'll get to that in just a bit. Today's injury report came out just about an hour ago, maybe less than that at this point. And Zay Flowers atop this list with a knee. He was the lone DNP, did not practice on Tuesday. Kyle Hamilton popped up with a knee as well, but he was limited. You better believe he'll be ready to go. Deontay Hardy, return specialist who was brought in at the latter half of free agency last summer, also has a knee, but he was a full participant. Perhaps that's an option for the Ravens, should he be able to go coming up on Saturday to do some return work for them, a position that's really been unsettled, particularly at punt returner. Justice Hill, who's been dealing with a concussion and an illness in recent days, recent weeks, was limited. It's notable that he is out of concussion protocol, or I should say this, he's out no longer experiencing concussion symptoms, but the illness has kept him on this list and perhaps even on protocol, in protocol. So anyway, we'll see what happens with Justice throughout this week. Obviously, you want him just because of the depth that he gives you at running back. And hopefully they continue to give Keaton Mitchell some carries here and there, and especially some return duties, because his 47-yard burst against Cleveland the other day was something to see. All things considered, entering the postseason with a list that is this brief, that's this short, I think the Ravens, there's a lot to like about that, especially given their past issues with availability or lack thereof. As far as Pittsburgh's concerned, they had one DNP, and it was Cameron Hayward with an illness. I should say they had 2. Isaac Sumalo, an offensive lineman, just an NIR for rest. Aside from that, they're going to be good to go here. Calvin Anderson, he was a full participant. Dante Jackson, he's been banged up in recent weeks with a back. He was a full participant. The rookie, Roman Wilson, wide receiver, hamstring, full participant. So both teams, for the most part, and it's notable, Justin Fields is off this list. He's been dealing with an abdominal issue in recent weeks. And why do I say that's notable? Because the Steelers used him in a couple packages. What was that, the first time around or the second time around? I can't remember if it was the first or second, but he was a factor in one of those games against Baltimore. I want to say it was the first. Don't quote me on that. When was he doing those QB sneaks, those QB option plays? Help me out, Chad. Was it round 1 or round 2 that was taking place? Anywho, he's off the list. He'll be an available option for Mike Tomlin if he wants to kind of dive into the trickery. But moral of the story, these two rivals are relatively in good shape going into this do or die playoff game wild card weekend. Now, Zay Flowers is on this list, and that remains notable because the national reports that are out there from a Ian Rappaport, say, noted that it's a knee sprain. That's what ruled him out of Saturday's game against Cleveland. Luckily, it wasn't a non-contact, and as John Harbaugh confirmed earlier this week at his press conference, it's not season-ending either. Kyle Van Noy, for what it's worth, his teammate and one of the veterans on the defensive side of the ball, on his podcast, McCoy and Van Noy, had this to say about Zay's status.
Banged up, but knowing Zay, he's played when he hasn't practiced. He's a tough little sucker, bro. He's from Broward County too. You know how those Broward County kids they for real over there down in Florida. They love football, and he's gonna do everything he can to play. I'm going into expecting to see him on Sunday, just knowing who he is as a person and him as his competitive nature. We'll see, but that's I'm going in knowing that I got him in the game. That's for sure.
So, ode of confidence from Kyle Van Noy, quote, I'm going into it expecting to see him on Sunday, which he really meant Saturday. Just knowing who he is as a person, I'm going in knowing I got him in the game. That's for sure. Well, reporters like Kyle Phoenix on X sharing a short while ago during his visit up at Under Armour Performance Center, one winning drive, that Zay Flowers was spotted walking in the locker room with a minor brace on his knee. So that's where things are at. He was a DNP. He was seen with a brace. You'd like to think that the Ravens are more than capable of getting past Pittsburgh without Zay. But remember, he is really used in a variety of ways for Todd Monken. Sometimes it's just eye candy, having to account for just his presence, right? The jet sweeps, the misdirection, the motions. I mean, there's nobody that probably logs more steps than Zay Flowers throughout a football game for the Ravens. He is constantly on the move, constantly involved in plays, whether it be directly or indirectly. And so their offense clearly is different without him, but they've never been more prepared, more stocked to have a injury like this pop up than they are right now. They've got playmaking ability all throughout the field. And as long as you take care of the football, run it effectively with the king and your complementary pieces in that backfield, and play clean, disciplined football, the Ravens are going to emerge victorious. I feel confident about that. That's where things currently stand with Zay Flowers. It'll be something to watch throughout the week. I would not be surprised if they don't want to push it and it ends up coming down to a pregame workout or something along those lines come Saturday. He is too valuable to where this team wants to go and how they're going to get there if you're not careful. A big reason as to why they've gotten here, of course, is due to the play calling of Todd Monken. And as we learned yesterday, Chicago Bears put in a request to interview Todd, that is, for their head coaching job. And they are now one of two teams, as we learned earlier this morning, that have done so. The Jacksonville Jaguars parted ways with Doug Peterson recently. And, of course, Chicago let Matt Eberflus go in season as well. So Jacksonville named Todd Monken to a pretty lengthy list here of candidates that includes Kellen Moore, Joe Brady, Liam Cohen, Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn from the Detroit side of things. Both of those guys you'd like to think are going to be highly sought after. Patrick Graham and Robert Saleh, who, of course, was let go in season by the New York Jets in what became just a tumultuous year for that football program, as we all know. Aside from this, another vacancy has just popped up in this maybe a couple hours ago now. The Raiders letting Antonio Pierce go, a.k.a. a one and done for Vegas. And that means as Field Yates tallies up so far, there are now 6 NFL coaching vacancies across the league. Chicago and Jacksonville being 2 of them. The Jets being another, being that Jeff Ulrich is an interim. I'm sure he'll get an interview, but can't imagine he's going to be a serious candidate. Rex Ryan among many who they've already interviewed. I believe that took place today. The Patriots being another, having let go of Gerard Mayo. The Raiders, as you see here on the screen, and the Saints, who I believe had an interim coach in for them as well when they let Dennis Allen go. And as Field also notes, the Cowboys loom as another team with a coaching situation to watch, given Mike McCarthy's contract status. So the reason why I bring this up is just because obviously Todd Monken is seen as a candidate that is a very compelling one because of what he's accomplished so far in 2 regular seasons with Baltimore, taking them to new heights. And don't be surprised if a couple other of these teams, aside from Chicago and Jacksonville, are interested in giving Todd Monken a shout.